Writer's Room. I'm trying to find the movie, so that's kind of why I'm a little dazzled, I guess. Not dazzled, but you know what I mean. Uh, Welcome back to the Writer's Room. Hosted by me and only me. I don't know if I'll ever get Jared on. I don't know. Our taste in movies is quite different, and our love of movies, I think, is probably quite different. Anyway, it'll be fun to do it. Today is Scorsese. Today is Taxi Driver. Uh, as I introduced, what's his face, Spielberg and Jaws. Uh, it's beyond interesting to me how opposite um Scorsese is to Spielberg. There's if you look on it, there's a Reddit post about it, how they're like two sides of American film. Like if you have American, if American film is a coin, and Spielberg's on one side and Scorsese is the other. Spielberg's the side that makes you feel good and sometimes makes you want to, it's really entertains you, and the other time it makes you want to really think about important things and he wants to inspire you, if that makes sense. One side is all about the imagination and wonder and adventure and all that kind of stuff. Good versus evil. And then the other, his other films are, more serious, but there's always this uplifting thing to it. That inspire you and make you want to go out and make the world a better place. That's Spielberg. Scorsese is he's someone who really makes you think about our world. It's the art and entertainment divide, basically. That's a great way to think of Scorsese and Spielberg, and even Coppola and Lucas. It's like that. Um, Scorsese is really into the idea of the personal element of filmmaking and art, and having something to say, and criticizing the world that you live in, and thinking about the world you live in a new way. That's like I think I mentioned it before, maybe with the William Goldman quote. Art criticizes, entertainment upholds values. So that's a way I think of Scorsese. And yeah, Taxi Driver is it's a look into the mind of the country in 1970, the 70s, coming home from Vietnam, and what do we have left? I think there's a big connection with Dostoevsky. I'd say that too. Well, now we're getting into the actual podcast, but I'll just say that. But that's very much, he's a fascinating filmmaker, of course. I mean, that's besides the point. I mean, usually he's considered the best director alive, you know, and again, it's because like Spielberg, their careers have lasted decade, like literally decades, um, which is so rare in Hollywood. Um, and it certainly makes it harder, I guess, to appreciate people like Coppola and Lucas, who had like these amazing highs and then nothing, basically. Well, that's a perspective, but you know what I mean. Um, like there's a narrative Lucas hasn't made a good movie since 1983. And there's a narrative Coppola hasn't made a great movie since 1979, and so on and so forth. The Godfather 3 is not liked. Obviously the prequels. I mean, you know, that narrative, obviously. But not Scorsese, not Spielberg. And like I guess a great way to think of it is Scorsese is no one has the power he does to make interesting, like to get interesting movies made in Hollywood, interesting big movies, not just little movies, but big movies. Casino, Goodfellas, which I don't people think those are crime movies. I guess I'll get into that, but they're not. I don't think they're crime movies. But whatever. Well, I'll talk about that over the credits. But without further ado, here is in fact I'll just hit play. because I usually edit it. I edit the beginning to the podcast, but whatever. Well, makes my life easier. Never mind. I'll whatever. But here's Taxi Driver. And my commentary. So enjoy. Yeah, so I think that's just important to keep in mind that because I think to understand those movies as genre movies, I think is quite the mistake. Um, because I don't know, it treats it like a comic, like it's just like a comic book. like like there's a weight. It implies a certain weightlessness that's not in those movies. Like it's some made up archetypical thing, which is just not. So just because again, there's an associate of the podcast uh that is a huge comic book movie fan. Is also loves Scorsese, and I think he thinks gangsters are like superheroes. And I've seen even James Gunn mention it, like, oh, you can't criticize my movies because they have superheroes. I wouldn't criticize your movies because they have gangsters. But it's like again, a gangster, like that's a real thing. A superhero is not. So anyway, uh, it's funny how this movie, I guess even like Raging Bull too. Uh, usually the reality of this movie, the grittiness of it, you know, usually that's taken to mean, oh, this is like the opening of Nightcrawler. That's funny. Huh. Like, well, I don't know if he's looking for work, but uh, I don't know. Like, that shot just reminded me of Nightcrawler, which I watched years ago, and it's kind of a similar, it's a take on the idea of Taxi Driver, I guess. But I think it's well, I don't know if it's a bit of a noir or not. I don't even know if this is a noir movie. Schrader studied more, so I don't know. But yeah, usually the grittiness of this movie is associated with Godard and Italian neorealism. But at least the opening, I think there's a lot of you know callbacks to Vertigo, which is interesting. Like the dreaminess of Vertigo, and I think even the way he moves the camera in Raging Bull, like the whole the emphasis on it being cinema, if that makes sense, like the love of what is it's hard to put in the words, but the way the story is being told with a camera, I think there's a connection between Vertigo, Raging Bull, and this movie. Again, because he's so in vogue of the neorealists. So, like, I think of more Scorsese as again, he's a success of the Rossellini and De Sica in that way. So, um, yeah, I never realized, I never thought about that connection to. I know he talked about Hitchcock in regards to Taxi Driver, but because he hasn't opened up about any influences on Raging Bull, but he did mention Kubrick's documentary being an influence, but uh, not the Kubrick boxer documentary made when he was a young person. But beyond that, not much talk of influences. Again, I guess beyond the assumed lineage she already comes from. So, like that love of, well, it's realism. That idea of, again, it sounds obvious to say, but if you compare, from the Spielberg, there's a love of escapism there that Scorsese does not share. And there's a love of presenting things as is that's not there in Spielberg. Yeah, like I said before, this guy, Scorsese is able to make these really interesting big movies that not many other filmmakers can get made. In fact, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, Inarritu, you can get interesting stuff made, like The Revenant. Paul Thomas Anderson, obviously. You know, I think Zakar is a deeply interesting movie. Uh, that isn't just about making it. Yeah, that's Scorsese's movies aren't about making you feel good, and that's its own. That's an important thing. I mean, Fincher too. His movie. I mean, he's a little different. He's his own thing, but a lot of art critics do value that more. The idea of like, you don't really value the whole. Oh, does the story make you feel good? Like, it's not a value a lot of literature and cinema type people have. Drama people too. So, like TV Trip says, call it true art is angsty, and true art's incomprehensible. So that's a noted tradition. It's like if you look at all the the best quote unquote books or the quote unquote best books, a lot of them are pretty depressing. It's funny that Dickens, Dostoevsky, and Tolstoy did work with uplifting endings, so that's pretty interesting. But Gatsby is just destruction, Godfather's destruction. Um, Macbeth is destruction. Hamlet is arguably destruction. Lear. So anyway, as for the movie itself, I mean, the Godard thing, the Godard and the neorealist thing. This is an honest portrait of New York City at this time, and America at this time. A sort of nihilistic reality that New York was at the time. Or at least the nihilistic reality of one Vietnam vet after the war. I guess the idea of coming home and realizing you didn't fight for anything, nothing real. Being abandoned and all that kind of stuff. Which again, that is a connection to Dostoevsky. So, who Paul Schrader and Scorsese did mention as a touchstone for the movie, specifically notes from the underground. Though again, I think you see that sort of style in the four other big books he wrote. Karamazov, Idiot, Demons, and Crime and Punishment. Which Crime and Punishment I see a lot of in this. So. Oh, this is yeah. I live in New York, and this was a time when yeah, Times Square was a hellhole in a way. It was a place of raunchy sex stuff and that kind of thing. And so, yeah, these are the parts of the movie where I see a lot of De and Rossellini and Godard and Truffaut. Oh yeah, it's just a scene taking place in this porn shop basically. What is behind? What is gum? Dude, it's funny too. Is Scorsese does come. I don't know how much he condemns the sort of sex obsessed society that is depicted in this movie, at least the sex obsessed underworld. I don't know. So a lot of conservative people feel like that's infected our mainstream culture now. This obsession with sex, which is I'm starting to agree with more and more. I mean, that's its own fucking topic, but I'm really starting to understand the conservative perspective on stuff. But that's its own discussion. I might come back later, maybe. That's a cool line. And yeah, I do really. I mean, the Vertigo thing, that the connection there is the obsession with a woman, which I mean, as a man, I guess I can relate to. Oh, it's a Scorsese cameo. That's funny. See, something. I mean, I should mention it. The obsession with a woman. I wonder how much that is a byproduct of getting rid of. I mean, of marriage, really, the value of marriage. I know I sound so conservative, but I've been reading a lot, I guess, that stuff lately. And I don't know, it makes sense to me. The issues that would come from devaluing love and the idea of marriage. I don't even know how old Travis is at this point in the movie. I don't like 30. I'm guessing early 30s, maybe late 20s. I don't know how old De Niro was at the time. I'm guessing 30 is my guess. So again, as I've become more and more into directing, I'm noticing all the shot choices and how you use the camera, the blocking, which is quite fun. The whole like you start in the medium, well, medium close up, and then the character gets up and walks over to the blonde woman. And it's just like you wouldn't think of that. The important, I don't know. Like these sorts of decisions, I feel like they just as a screenwriter first, I never thought of that stuff. So like how you move the camera and why. I mean, yeah, I mean, Vertigo, and even this movie does interrogate a lot of sexual politics and that kind of thing. Um, well, it's funny. I think at this time period, women were a bit more open too, like the cold approach. I mean, I talk like that a lot about with Noah, but that's a dying thing. I think that's not a cultural thing to do. Yeah, it's funny. I really related to this movie when I was younger. You know why I just didn't with Godfather? I watched this for the first time at 17 and it just totally worked. But I think the idea of a lonely character is just a lot easier for a teenager to grasp and relate to than Godfather's 25-year-old you know man about to be married and you know having to choose between family and his values. So that's not a story that you can relate to at 17, weirdly enough. And yeah, there is a Batman connection with Bickle and Bruce Wayne. Again, it's the loneliness thing. I mean, man, what causes this? I mean, I know a lot of Christian conservatives say this is civilization, that all this is the consequence of Babylon. Uh, when you don't have any values, this nihilistic hellhole of New York is what happens. Though I've seen people be nostalgic about 70s New York and how it felt more real versus the corporate place it's become with all the big neon signs and that kind of thing. Here he is with the scene where he's bonding with, I guess, with his coworkers. Yeah, again, there's such a dirtiness to this movie that you see in this conversation going on. So it's like, and you watch this movie and it's like, well, how do you fix this? But I don't know. Maybe there isn't a fix. I don't know. I mean, I know the Vietnam veteran and abandonment of the Vietnam veteran is a big part of this movie, but I don't really see. I think I'll look into it more. Dialogue surrounding just the nihilism of New York at this time. But I know it's a toxic masculinity thing. I see that with Travis that he thinks he's owed. What the fuck's her name? Let me look her up. The blonde woman. Like he's owed her that you know, what's her name? Yeah, Betsy. Um, like this is an indictment of the modern day incel in a way. Which I mean, I guess yeah, the male entitlement thing, and the savior narrative that I can use my masculinity to beat the shit out of other people and I guess save the world. I don't know. And right now I'm in a very weird bubble with conservative stuff. It's like yeah, I don't know. It's a world without values. This one. So, but yeah, there's definitely a feeling. Yeah, it's themes of abandonment and uh isolation, basically. This is a long scene, weirdly. I'm like all the movies, I guess, were like that. Like we've been in this diner for how long? Well, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I think it's the scene with Travis asks her out. Again, you couldn't. I don't think you could do this today, but I don't know what this scene's about. This is a lot of dialogue that pretty plotless stuff. Oh, here we go. Travis walks in. I wonder if it's been pointed out how much Roman Polanski looks like De Niro, and even I guess Dustin Hoffman too. All three kind of look alike. Yeah, I love the camera movement here. The structure of the story too. I don't know. It's a weird. It's not a clear cut plot. I mean, Scorsese's talked about that how his films lack a plot, but because I could try and pinpoint it. I mean, I know my screenplay professor would probably say him seeing Betsy's insane into it. So, and that the one is that he wants to impress her. That's a bit reductive, to put it lightly. He's in the background, this dude. Yeah, he's not taking no for an answer. He's being insistent. And in his mind, romantic, which maybe. So I know there's a question too of how much is reality and how much is fake in this movie. I don't know. I guess. Hmm. I'm wondering if she's charmed by him in the scene or not. Yeah, she seems charmed by him in the scene. I do know there's a the Hitchcock blonde was that's a connection to Hitchcock right there. So yeah, I wonder. I don't know. See, on the one hand, if it's all in his head, that's one thing, and it shows he's delusional. But it would, it'd be good to, it would show that he's not crazy. Like there's some redeemable quality to this Travis character. See, I don't know. All the camera movements, I just think that's really cool. Like that's the way he moves that camera. I wouldn't think of doing. Again, that's why it's worth studying these fucking movies. Like seeing why, Scorsese does this at this moment in the movie or whatever. See, yeah, I don't know. I gotta look into it.
how
So that gave me
what
the right to
the
come in and
idea
talk
is
to you.
on how much of
Otherwise, I
this
never would have felt
connection
I
that
had
he
the
has with
right to
Betsy
talk
is
to
in
you
his
or
head or
say
not.
anything to you. Never would have had the courage to talk to you. With him, I felt there was nothing. I could sense it. And when I walked in, I knew I was right. Did you feel that way?
I wouldn't be here if I didn't.
Where are you from?
Safe.
I felt
See
you.
that line? I don't know.
Not that I don't like him. I just think he's silly.
I don't know. I
I
guess
don't
it's
think
the
it was
idea of
fiction.
he impresses her with
I
some.
don't believe I've ever met anyone quite like you.
Yeah, I don't know. Because if it's all real, then there again, it's like Travis lost something. You know, he lost the connection with a great woman. It seems like. I wonder if there's this film too.
To remind me
Was that Columbus Circle?
of
Who's that?
He's a prophet and a pusher. Partly truth, partly fiction. Walking contradiction.
You saying that about me?
What else would I be talking about?
I'm a pusher. I never have pushed.
No, just the part about the contradictions. You are that.
Ah, here he is buying the actual album. Dude, it's funny. This could easily be a rom com if you do it a certain way. I never realized that before. A nice, cute rom com between the taxi driver and the political campaigner woman. I actually never realized that connection.
I called Betsy again at her office, and she said maybe we go to a movie together after she gets off work tomorrow. That's my day off. At first, she hesitated,
But yeah, there's a narrative where he sort of pushes her into.
Betsy. Oh no, Betsy. What? I forgot
He
to ask
pushes
her
her
last
into
name. Damn.
going on a
I
date
gotta
with him.
remember stuff like that.
And yeah, again, that's part of the element of the movie I could relate to, that the girl issue trouble. That I really could relate to, actually. So that makes a lot of sense to me. Again, it's probably why I really liked it at 17. I love the shots of him in the mirror. I thought it was really cool.
Are you Charles Palantine, candidate? Yes, I am.
And there's something cool about that. Oh wow, that connection with the killer, or what his would-be killer. That's really interesting. Like an interaction between the two before it happens. Months before it happens.
He said it was against their policy, but they don't know anything, They're a bunch of jerks.
Oh, it's just so cool. Kind of
Kind
like how the guy who killed Lennon, John Lennon, they had an interaction earlier that day, which is kind of
Oh
interesting.
yeah, that's true. Can I ask you something, Travis? Sure. What is the one thing about this
I think he
country
says
that
some
bugs
really
you the
racist
most?
stuff right about here.
Well, I don't know. I don't follow political issues that closely, sir. I don't know. Oh, well, there must be something. Well, whatever it is, he should clean up this city here, because this city here is like an open sewer, It's full of filth and scum. Sometimes I can hardly take it. Whatever becomes the president should just really clean it up. Know what I mean?
There's something so cool about this. This feels real. And I do like how it plays on the idea of a ignorant electorate. That's pretty cool.
I think that the president should just clean up this whole mess here. He should just flush it right down the fucking toilet. Well, I think I know what you mean,
Yeah.
Travis. It's not going to be easy. We're going to have to make some radical changes. Damn straight. Here you go, Travis. Keep the change. Thank you. Nice talking to you, Travis. Nice talking to you, sir. You're a good man. I know you're gonna win.
Yeah, a lot of it. I mean, there's a lot of that in today's politics too. I mean, this was around Watergate. It's that the distrust of politicians and the distrust of politics itself. Which I mean, I'm trying to write a movie about Steve Bannon, so and or Breitbart. So either a movie or a play, which I'll talk about, I guess, later. And this is where Jodie Foster shows up, of course. I like how he's freaked out by it too. That's kind of interesting.
All right. And that's it. That was Taxi Driver Part 1. Tune in next time for Taxi Driver Part 2, which may be longer or just the same length as this episode. That's it. Have a good night or day.